Ever dreamed of kayaking through remote Scandinavian islands? Sweden's west coast is home to one of the most beautiful kayaking destinations in the world, the Bohuslän Archipelago. Hundreds of smooth granite islands stretch along the coast, shaped by glaciers and surrounded by sheltered seas. For me and two friends, this was a perfect setting for a multi-day kayak adventure, wild camping, exploring and disconnecting from a few days in an absolutely epic location. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to plan your own trip, from where to rent kayaks, to route ideas, gear and tips for staying safe on the water. Despite feeling like in the middle of nowhere, Fjällbacka is surprisingly well connected. There's a few options to get here. It's positioned roughly halfway between Gothenburg in Sweden and Oslo in Norway. It's about an hour and a half drive from Gothenburg and about a 2-hour drive from Oslo. There's also public transport from Gothenburg if you didn't want to rent a car, and this takes a couple of hours. For us, we actually drove from the UK as we had a bit of a road trip along the way, stopping off paddleboarding in Amsterdam and Copenhagen. We rented our kayaks from 2C4U in Fjallbacka, and I couldn't recommend them enough. The owner was super friendly, relaxed and incredibly helpful. He talked us through the best camping spots for our first night and pointed out some recommended spots to go see. At the place, they offer both single and double sea kayaks, and multi-day rentals include everything you need, like paddles, spray deck, life jackets, and waterproof chart of the local area. They were also a lot cheaper than other rental places I looked at during my planning. We went out of the main season, so it was really quiet. However, if you're booking in the main summer period, it's worth booking a good few months in advance. We were out on the water for 3 days, which gave us the option to paddle quite far up north. Crucially, we decided to play it by ear and plan nothing. The reason for this was if you look at the map of Fjällbacka and the coastline around, it's literally littered with hundreds of tiny little islands. So we figured we'd have no problem finding wild camping spots along that coast. And especially as it was out of season, so there was unlikely to be a lot of people around. Thankfully, this proved to be right. However, if you prefer to have it all planned before you go, that's certainly not a problem. For reference on the distance that you might be able to paddle in a day, without too much effort, we were paddling around 3 miles per hour, or 5 kilometers an hour, and did 26k or 16 miles on our longest day. The pace, of course, entirely depends on the weather conditions, and you should be prepared to change your route if rough seas come in. This section of coastline is good, as you can simply move closer to the coastline and the conditions should improve. From Fjällbacka, we headed directly west to camp on a nearby island for the first evening. Then we headed north for a day, weaving through the islands, and then headed back south on the final day. The islands around this area were particularly spectacular, rolling granite islands and some beautiful lagoonal ones too. One of the best parts of kayaking in Sweden is the right to roam, or in Swedish, allemansrätten. It means you're free to camp almost anywhere, as long as you respect nature and leave no trace. In the Bohuslän Archipelago, you aren't short of amazing camping spots. There's literally hundreds of uninhabited islands. An hour or so before you want to start to camp, look for an island with sheltered sandy beach, preferably facing west for a sunset view. The kayak itself was a nifty bit of gear. It had a rudder on the back of the vessel that you control with foot pedals, making it really easy to steer and paddle at the same time. Packing for a kayaking trip is a bit like backpacking for a super rainy trip. Everything should be in dry bags just in case. While the compartments in the kayak are fully sealed and waterproof, it can be quite easy to get a bit of water in when unloading and loading back in, especially if it's raining. Key bits of kit are lightweight tent, sleeping mat and sleeping bag. Joining me on this trip was my trusty Alpkit Soulless tent, which had seen me through hiking the length of the UK, hiking the South Island of New Zealand, and many other trips. We each had a compact stove, gas, and pot for boiling water. Typical breakfast was porridge and peanut butter. For lunch, as we were only there a couple of days, and we could keep food fairly cold as it was chilled in the water, I made sandwiches with Gouda, salami, garlic spread, and rye bread. Snacks across the day were fruit, nuts, snack bars, etc. All your typical hiking food. Footwear. I took hiking shoes for on land and slider flip-flops in the kayak. My friends had water shoes, which I definitely recommend taking, as they're much comfier and easier to get in and out of the water with. There's absolutely no fresh water on these islands, so you'll need to plan ahead and carry enough water. We took enough water for about 1.5 days and filled up on land, as there's quite a few coastal villages on the mainland. It might surprise you, but the Swedish summer sun can be intense, even more so when you're out on the water, where the surface reflects the UV rays. A hat, sunglasses, and plenty of sunscreen aren't just optional, they're essential for a trip like this, even if the weather is looking gloomy. Safety is key here. You shouldn't go far out on the water along this coast if you don't have prior experience. Whilst me and my friends didn't have much sea kayaking experience, we'd done a lot of paddling in lochs up in Scotland in rough conditions, which are quite similar to the sea. I brought a PLB along with me, a personal locator beacon, because I'd originally bought this when hiking across New Zealand, so I figured I might as well bring it. However, most of this coastline in Sweden does have phone reception, but this provides just that extra bit of assurance. And it goes without saying, you must wear a buoyancy aid at all times when paddling. To conclude this video, it would be hard not to visit Fjallbacka and this area and not be impressed. If you've got any questions or useful tips, drop them in the comments below.